He pulled away from the world after they burned. Before leaving, someone would tell him that it wasn't his fault, which he would know to be a lie because when the fire knocked on the door he let it in. Growing up he had learned that murderers could not function within civilized society. One could only bring so much death into the world without being marked by it, and if they weren't civilized, they might as well be living out in the woods away from people, and boys like Derek loved people. So Derek went to live in the woods after. It was where he belonged after sinning as he did. He was decidedly uncivilized in personhood and would live that way. Of course he came into contact with people from time to time. Hikers off trail, a few lost campers, once a pair of teenagers looking for a private place to fuck. Seeing people was always terrifying for him, and over the lonely years he learned things that he did not know he did not have. He hated this more than he could bear, and he soon learned to hate the people instead. It felt better that way. He responded to each of these people in the same manner, coldly, tersely, often with hostility. It felt right to see these people cringe away from him, because he was so monstrous and ugly and alone. Car crashes were not uncommon, and 8 years after the fire, when Derek went to check the latest one out, he fell in love. The car wasn't the worst he'd seen. He'd seen the insides of people decorate their outsides so perfectly that it was almost as if someone had touched the scene, some giant skilled hand reaching down to drape strings of dark blood or viscera on still bodies. There was a young boy, sleeping next to an older man, his father. The older man who was dead held no interest for him. Derek paid him no mind. The boy, bloody and broken as he was, held something perfect. Derek took him from the car with no lack of care or reverence, his fingers tingling as they touched the boy for the first time. And, once extracted, he picked the boy up, knowing he was too weak to walk, and wanting to show him how strong he was. The boy was heavy and cold in his arms, and Derek knew he needed to warm him up soon. He ran them through the forest, not stopping, and delighted in the lack of protest and confusion the boy offered. It seemed he might inherently trust Derek the way Derek implicitly trusted him. He took the boy to a little clearing he knew and stripped him naked, looking more than he understood was his right. He cleaned him in the stream, washing off the blood and mud and shit and glass. Derek took him from the water. He considered clothing the boy again, but realized his clothes were too dirty, and the boy was too pure and clean for such things. Unsure of what to do, but still needing to get him warm, he lay him down on the grass and covered the boy's small frame with his own. He studied him for so long, only daring to lightly brush over the boy's plush mouth with his fingertips. He looked over the boy's naked chest, his freckled, pale skin, his long legs, the stillness in his body. The repose was only spoiled by the marks where glass had been embedded. Staring at the boy's face, waiting for him to rouse, Derek felt himself rouse in the boy's stead. They were too close, and it was embarrassing, being hard and dirty on top of innocence. Regardless, Derek ground down, rubbing himself into the boy's hip, and the boy's legs spread apart just a little for him. He finally kissed the boy, even though he shouldn't have, and he was unresponsive, and Derek realized this must have been his first kiss. Not wanting to make him any more anxious, Derek moved down to his throat and then chest. Derek asked if he was okay, but the boy had no words to convey how he felt, being too lost in the sensation of his first time. However, by the spread of his legs and the excited tension of his body, he urged Derek forward. Derek spread the boy's legs even more, tilting his hips up. The sight was almost too much, and seeing the boy under him so exposed made him painfully hard. He placed his own fingers into his mouth, wetting them, and then brought them down to the boy's hole, running them over his rim. He observed the little pucker with fascination as he nudged his first finger inside. Gently pushing his fingers in, he prepped the boy, worked him as open and loose as he could. The boy was quiet with shock, leaving Derek to be the one making embarrassingly aroused noises. Once Derek knew the boy was sufficiently prepared, he spread him slowly, holding him apart, showing off his perfect pink hole. Derek pushed in his own erection slowly, inch by inch, trying not to hurt the boy. They moaned together once Derek was all the way in. Derek's body sank and the boy's gave way, again and again and again, as Derek rocked his hips. The boy's eyes were closed in bliss, slack-jawed in ecstasy. Derek kissed him, and as he fucked into the boy, he could feel the rolling lull of the boy's head as he was helpless in pleasure. Derek felt lost and loved, and so in love with the perfect being beneath him. Derek told him he loved him, needing him to know, and he swore he could hear the boy's breath shudder with excitement. Had the boy had words of his own, he would have said yes, yes, yes. Derek knew it, did not have to ask for a response. Derek did not last long and sobbed as he came. He felt almost bad that it had happened so fast, but the boy didn't seem to mind. They lay together afterwards, Derek's head on the boy's chest. He listened for a heartbeat which was so faint, so relaxed, that it sounded like his own. They had become one so well they were sharing hearts now. Derek knew the boy had slipped into sleep, must have been exhausted. He stayed with him for a moment, but felt the weight of his day. He whispered a word of parting and a few of love before standing and leaving him to sleep in the peaceful clearing. When he came back a few hours later, a wild dog was eating out the boy's stomach. Its muzzle was black-red and stuck inside of him in a way too sickening for Derek to comprehend. Before he knew it, he was running to the boy and throwing the dog off. She whined and bit and died very quickly when Derek broke her neck. He looked down at his boy. He collapsed at his side and shook his shoulders, trying to wake him. He pushed all that wasn't in the dog's stomach back into the boy's and felt himself crying like a child because he couldn't fix it. He just couldn't. He wasn't fit to be alone like this again, and he told the boy as much, screamed it at him and the bitch dog and the trees. It was the night of burning all over, and it was all his fault. Looking at his face, the boy held the same serenity in death that he had in sleep. Derek mourned him and left him in the clearing. He felt guilty. He always felt guilty. Bittersweet memories. That's all I am taking with me. Goodbye. Please don't cry. We both know that I'm not what you need. And I will always love you. I will always love you. And I will always love you.
What the fuck was that?
I
didn't really like that ending.
That was very interesting, Zoe.
So, he was dead?
No, seriously, what the fuck was that?